Hello everyone, this is Pooka, and welcome to the top 8 from the Castleton, Indiana City Championship, Day 3 of the Indianapolis Mini City Championship Marathon between Dennis Gill on the right and myself on the left. So yeah, this is always kind of weird for me to commentate on my own tournament matches. Usually I'm just trying to be like an objective observer, try to walk you through what's going on, explain the game state, all stuff like that. But it's kind of tough to do when I'm in it. So what this turns into is more of a first-person perspective kind of thing. How I'm viewing things and what I'm expecting Dennis to do. So this is kind of the direction I'm going to take. In this tournament, I was 6-0 going into this top 8. Dennis squeaked in at 4-2, but the records do not matter anymore. Because once you're in, you're in. And all you got to do is win your games. And, I mean, that's really all it takes. So records don't matter anymore. You know, people say curse to the first, all that stuff, but that's whatever. Now, I do start with a Sigilyph against a Keldeo and a Squirtle. So I know I'm facing a Keldeo Blastoise deck right off the bat. I will be using my Ho-Oh deck. And, you know, starting with my Sigilyph, I am feeling pretty safe. There's not much that can actually knock out Sigilyph in the Blastoise deck, except for Blastoise with a bunch of energy. And, you know, a Blastoise takes 5 energy with the Eviolite on there to knock out a Sigilyph in one hit. And then if he does that, I just use Mewtwo to knock him out, and then he loses his Blastoise. So that's kind of the thought process here. Sigilyph is very good against this deck because it forces them to attack with Blastoise. And then once they attack with Blastoise, you knock out their Blastoise, and they no longer have energy acceleration, and you win. So I'm very fortunate to start with that Sigilyph, but that is the situation we got here. Now Dennis, he played a Skyla for a Juniper, so I'm thinking, alright, his hand's not that great. So I have an N in my hand, I decide not to play it, because I want to make him use his supporter. Usually when someone grabs a Skyla, or grabs a Juniper with a Skyla, I mean, they're not getting, or they don't have a very good hand. But in this case, I was extremely wrong. Because it looks like Dennis has pretty much everything he could ever want. And the only thing he didn't have was a supporter. So we do see a rare candy, a Blastoise. And now he has the Juniper too, so I feel kind of dumb. But at the same time, I don't regret not ending him. I would probably never end there. Unless I knew for a fact my opponent had the rare candy and Blastoise in hand. So yeah, and then he puts down a normal Keldeo, which really throws me off. I just had to read Hydro Pump to make sure, and yeah, it's the same attack as Blastoise, actually. So, it does 60 for 3, plus 10 for each water on it. Which means that thing can knock out Sigilyph, which, really kind of ruins my strategy here. And forces me to go a different route. I can't really depend on Sigilyph bringing up the Blastoise and all of that jazz. So now I'm going to be in quite a bit of trouble, I think. That normal Keldeo actually changes everything. But we'll see. Dennis will catcher out my Terrakion. I had to put down Terrakion just in case he got the rare candy Blastoise and all the energy to knock me out. It's silly not to take that, or silly to take that risk, you know, to just kind of cross your fingers and hope that he doesn't have a Blastoise and the energy. You know, that's not really a good idea. So here I'm going to play the N, because I need to draw a switch now. He did have a very good start, you know, turn 2 Blastoise. If I didn't start with a Sigilyph, it would have been a turn 2 Secret Sword for 110. But since I did start with Sigilyph, he just kind of couldn't attack me. He decided to put an energy on the benched Keldeo instead. I suppose if he put all of his energy onto the active Keldeo, he actually could have hit the Terrakion for 110 this turn, which probably would have been a little better. And, oop, a little mishap there, but nothing big. So I'm going to draw my 6 cards. I do draw a switch. Unfortunately, I don't draw any other supporters, but that's fine. Just being able to switch, and then I'll be able to Psychic for 70 this turn, setting up that Keldeo for a nice knockout. Now this looks all good and dandy, but it's hard to tell whether or not my opponent plays Super Scoop Up or even Max Potion. So it would be nice, in theory, to just kind of have that damage sit there the whole game. But until I know for a fact that he doesn't play any of those healing cards, I'm going to be a little weary about leaving the damage out there. I might want to, if he retreats it, I want to probably catch that as soon as possible. I guess that's my point here. Normally, I would just want to spread damage onto Keldeo so that I could finish them off with Terrakions or something like that. Use non-EX attackers if possible. But in this first game, I don't have much information on his deck. So I think when the opportunity presents itself, I'm just going to take the 2 prizes and go that route. So we do see Dennis plays a computer search for an energy retrieval. A little known fact, you actually don't have to show your opponent what you get with computer search, so that was kind of a blunder there. You don't really have to show me what you get. But here he's going to Deluge, and then gets back to water, and just like that, Keldeo actually knocks out my Sigilyph with 5 energy. Now, it's really annoying. And then he's got an N. So this is not really a good situation for me anymore. I do have that Keldeo back there that has all the damage on it. And I apologize, I don't know why the camera keeps going dark and light and stuff like that, but bear with us. At least we can see everything. There's no real glare this time, which is really good. But yeah, there's that Keldeo with 5 water on it. The Hydro Pump does 110, which minus 20 is just enough to knock out Sigilyph. So this is one of those points where you kind of felt like, at least from my perspective, I thought I had a good game plan. I thought I knew what I was going to do in this matchup. And then he springs a card on me that I wasn't expecting. So it's like, well, I thought I was going to win, but now I have to change my whole strategy. That's just kind of the spot I'm in. I now have to really just change up what I'm doing. And it actually looks kind of ugly for me, to be honest. Now, I'm not out of it by any means. It's still going to be a close game, but I really just have to change everything that I thought of. And here, this is the situation I'm talking about. I have a catcher. Do I want to, soften up the other Keldeo, or do I want to just take my 2 prizes there and be happy with that? It's a weird decision. I think not having any knowledge of his deck, I'm going to take the safer route and just knock out the Keldeo EX this turn. I'm going to get a Juniper for 7. That was a nice top deck. It'll allow me to get 2 Ho-Ohs in the discard pile just in case. Now, obviously, those are liabilities in this matchup because it's weak to water. It's weak to water. Basically, if he has a catcher, it's 2 free prizes at some point. So that's kind of ugly, but that's it's just the way it is. But yeah, I put a Mewtwo down. I'm glad to get another basic because I very easily could have been benched out that turn if he got 2 more energy on that Keldeo EX, or even the regular one. 2 more energy would have knocked me out. So yeah, now I'm in a very weird position, and I don't know really what my game plan is at this point. I know it's going to involve Mewtwo because, well, he's just an all-around good attacker in this matchup, and that's really all there is to it. Mewtwo is very good against Keldeo because it usually trades evenly with Keldeo, because if Keldeo EX has enough energy to knock you out in a one-hit, well, then Mewtwo is going to knock him out. X-Ball will just do that much. If it doesn't, then Mewtwo can at least knock it out in 2 hits, and then Keldeo EX probably doesn't have enough energy to knock out Mewtwo. So Mewtwo is always going to be pretty evenly matched with Keldeo EX, which is why my deck can compete with this deck. Even though Blastoise has all the energy acceleration, it really doesn't matter too much if Mewtwo can just kind of negate that by doing as much damage as they can do to you. You kind of have to respond a little bit, like you have to wait for them to attach all the energy. But, yeah, that's just the way it is. So here comes a Keldeo EX. You have an energy retrieval. He's going to get back. There's only one water in there, but that's just enough to knock me out. He did Skylar for the energy retrieval. Retreated his normal Keldeo. It only has one retreat. And then knocks me out. So here I'm thinking, how can I win this game from this point? It's going to be rough. He does have 4 energy on his Keldeo. So I'm going to go... Maybe I'm going to go for a big Mewtwo play this turn. I use the Rebirth with Ho-Oh. I get 3 energy. You have to have 3 different types. So I got a Lightning, Fighting, and a Psychic. So basically I have a double colorless. That's going to be 6 energy. And then I have a plus power, which will allow me to do 10 additional damage, which makes me need 1 less energy to get a knockout. So if I have 2 energy switches, which I do have right here, so there's 1 energy switch, and then a 2nd energy switch, I'm going to be able to knock out this Keldeo EX. And just like that, I should be alright. I have a plus power as well. I think I should probably... Well, he only has a 3-card hand, so I don't know if I want to end Bianca or Juniper. I decided to just Bianca and play it safe. I mean, it's a weird decision, honestly. Depending on what he has. I don't know if there's a right decision there. But even though I'm knocking this thing out, I'm not in a great position. I'm still just kind of hoping, alright, that he doesn't have the cards he needs to win. And let's see. So I'm going to X-Ball to get a knockout. Basically what I mean is if he has a catcher, he can just catcher up Ho-Oh and knock it out. And then if he drops his Mewtwo, I just lose. That's pretty much the situation I'm in. He does have a Bianca for 4. So it looks like he does not have a Mewtwo yet. But oh, he draws the energy retrieval on the last card. So I could have escaped that situation pretty easily. You know, just... If he doesn't have a Mewtwo this turn, or a catcher, I win. I mean, there's no way around it. I'm going to win this game. I'm just going to get another Mewtwo out. I'm going to win the game. No questions asked. But now this isn't so simple. This is... He's going to knock out my Mewtwo. Now, granted, I play 3 Mewtwo's, a lot of stuff, energy switches, all the whole 9 yards. I have all of this stuff to respond to his own Mewtwo. But it's going to be kind of rough. And he gets the X-Ball to knock out my Mewtwo. Really, I have like a 1-turn window to win the game here. If I get a Mewtwo to respond to his, I win the game. Easy, game over, no questions asked. We move on to game 2. If I don't, he probably just gets a catcher and knocks out my Ho-Oh, and I lose. So that's the spot I'm in right now. I can't end him because I need to get new cards. I need to go for the win right here. And that hand is not looking too good. But I do draw a Super Scoop Up, which is nice. If I get heads, I can pick up the Ho-Oh, and that takes away his option of winning, which is very nice. It takes away his option to knock out the Ho-Oh. It removes it from play. And maybe I can just win by knocking out his Mewtwo eventually. Maybe I can just get a 2-hit knockout on an EX. The options are open. So I go for the Super Scoop Up, and it's a Tails. So at this point, I've pretty much conceded that I've lost. It does not look good at all. Honestly, it doesn't look like I can even survive the turn, but I actually can if I catcher out his Keldeo EX. And if he doesn't have a way to retreat it, then I can survive for a turn. So I'm going to Ultra Ball. Might as well just do that here. We'll discard... I don't know, we'll just discard 2 cards that I don't really want anymore. Looks like Tornadus EX and Ultra Ball. Just gonna probably grab another Mewtwo and put it on my bench. It's really the only Pokemon I have left at this point. So yeah, I'm gonna put down the Mewtwo. And where do we go from here? I don't know. Basically, I just have to cross my fingers at this point and hope that he doesn't have the cards to retreat his Keldeo. That's sad, but that's really the position I got into. This is how quickly Mewtwo can swing things around. It's a double-edged sword. It can take a big knockout and then just gets knocked out just as easily. So we do have a Juniper, so at this point I figure it's just game over. There's no way I'm winning this game. All he has to do is get 2 energy and retreat, and then knock me out with a normal Keldeo using Hydro Pump. But it looks like he only got one water. So maybe I have a chance. Yeah, this game is not over. I can still draw the cards to win next turn. I have a Bianca in my hand, and I mean, if I draw the right cards, I can certainly win. You know, I would need like a switch, a catcher, a double colorless, and an energy switch, which is a lot, but I could still win. And you know, if he misses out on a catcher at some point, I can still win. But there are two catchers left in his deck, so his deck is pretty thin. I actually got pretty lucky to survive this turn because there are a lot of water energy in there, to be honest. But yeah, I still have a chance to win. The window is open. I just have to draw the right cards, and we can pull this one off. Yeah, it's really strange to think that, but even after whiffing that big turn, it's not over. And we're gonna see what Dennis decides to do. He's got all sorts of stuff in his hand. He's got a couple supporters, so he won't be dry on stuff next turn. And yeah, really, I just have to cross my fingers at this point. So I draw grass, which I really don't want to play, and I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna draw my 6 cards, or 5 cards actually, and nope, not quite. I draw a computer search and a catcher. It's not going to be enough to get me what I need. And once again, I'm just going to have to hope that he doesn't have the cards to win the game. Which would be 2 energy and a catcher, or... well, yeah, that's pretty much it at this point. 2 energy and a catcher is what he needs to win. He would need a lot more stuff to win the other ways. So it honestly came down to me whiffing that one turn, and then also missing that super scoop up. Those two things together really cost me the game. If I hit the super scoop up heads, I think I have a very good chance of winning. It would just make everything so much easier. I wouldn't have to worry about giving up 2 prizes, but now that Ho-Oh is just too big of a target, and this is why this is kind of a shaky matchup. If Ho-Oh weren't weak to water, then obviously this would be a much better matchup, but Pokemon is a game of weaknesses, resistances. It's a game of type advantage, so there's nothing you can really do about it. It's just the way it is. And I just try to figure out what's the best chance of surviving this turn. And I have a computer search, but I think I might actually just hold on to it until next turn. If I survive to next turn, I just want to see what I draw. You know, if I draw a double colorless, then I can computer search for the energy switch. If I draw the energy switch, then I can just computer search for a double colorless. So that's just kind of what's going through my head at this point. I'm just going to rebirth in advance. This is all just kind of, you know, if I survive, this will be important. Odds are I won't survive, but that's okay. But I just want to give myself the best chance of winning in this situation. So I do everything I can. That's just kind of my thought process. And now it just comes down to, does he have a catcher and 2 energy? That's all it takes. And as we can see, he has a Juniper in his hand, and that's pretty much just going to be it. If he draws 7 cards at this point, we saw his deck before. You saw there were a bunch of water, and then 2 catchers left. So he's actually going to Super Rod as well. Going to shuffle in 3 waters, it looks like. So yeah, at this point I realize, alright, I'm probably done for. If he has a Bianca, maybe I don't lose. Maybe I don't. He might not be able to draw enough cards. If it's a Juniper, alright, I know I've lost. Unless for some reason he only plays 2 catchers, I have lost. But that's just kind of what this process is for. You know, you kind of feel it out. You try to see what your opponent's deck list is in this first game. And this is kind of what this game was for me. It was kind of information gathering. Even though I'm going to lose, I learned a lot of stuff about his deck. And I learned that he does not play Tool Scrapper. He plays Eviolite instead, and he does not play Super Scoop Up or Max Potion. So these are all things I know going into the next game. So I do lose the first game. Dennis will take a close first game. Well played by him. He did everything right that game. And we're going to move into game 2. It's the best 2 out of 3 series. So we're going to shuffle up, and then we'll be right back for when we get all set up, so we will skip to that. Alright, so as we set up for game number 2 here, basically what's going through my head is, how do I approach this matchup now that I know my opponent's deck a little better? In the first game, I just kind of took a general strategy. You know, leading with Sigilyph is going to be good. I had this whole game plan marked out in my head, and it didn't work. So that's kind of upsetting when you think you have everything figured out, and then they drop something on you that really ruins that, which was the normal Keldeo last game. So now I'm just kind of thinking, alright, how do I win? And I think I have to take a simpler approach, honestly, which is just put on early pressure, and then later on in the game I want to use N to disrupt him, because that is what Blastoise decks are really weak to, N. If you can put them at a low hand size, they need a bunch of water energy to refill their attackers, and maybe they just won't draw that stuff, and then they just lose. So that is kind of my thought process here in the second game. And we'll see how it goes. I have a choice to open with Mewtwo or Terrakion. I'm always going to opt to start with a Mewtwo in this matchup, especially knowing I go first, because it's just going to put on so much pressure, and then Dennis does Mulligan again. So that's a big thing for me. But yeah, I know, excuse me, that I'm going to be going first. And there's no way his deck can get a turn 1 Mewtwo knocking me out. That's just not going to happen. Even a turn 2 Mewtwo with 3 energy is fairly unlikely, depending on what he starts with. And if he starts with a Mewtwo, then that is just like perfect for me. And we see another Mulligan. But that is just completely perfect for me. If I get to hit a Mewtwo for 80 on the first turn. I could not ask for anything better there. So who knows? Anything can happen here. I do get to go first, and I do have to win the next 2 games. But that's I've won 6 games already in this tournament, so I've not lost hope by any means. And we're gonna get set up here for game number 2. I did lose the first one, so like I've been saying, I do get to choose to go first. And we'll get started off. Now I do start with a Mewtwo and the double colorless, which is pretty much just what I want. I'm going to be able to put on pressure right away. I don't think I really need anything else. And yeah. See, I have all these supporters and computer search and Ultra Ball. But honestly, the Ho-Oh deck is just simple. You don't need much else turn 1. I'm not going to be going for a turn 1 rebirth. So I'm actually just going to end. There's nothing, it's not like the Blastoise deck where you want to Ultra Ball for your Squirtle, get it out there so you can get your Blastoise. No, it's just basic Pokemon. You can save the Ultra Ball for a later time. And that's just kind of what I was doing. I want to save the Ultra Balls, if possible, for a time where I can at least discard energy or discard a Ho-Oh, because those are things you need to get into the discard pile. So draw 6, or heck, even get that Landorus into the discard pile, because he's not helping me at all in this matchup. He's weak to water, so Landorus EX. I take the first opportunity I can to put that in the discard pile, that's for sure. I'm not sure what Pokemon I'll grab here. I could grab a Ho-Oh, so I can Ultra Ball it away next turn, or I could grab a Mewtwo, just kind of commit to a full frontal Mewtwo Assault. Or I can go for maybe like a Bouffalant or a Sigilyph. I didn't see if those are prized, maybe they were. And I decided to go for the Ho-Oh, just to prepare for an Ultra Ball next turn. I have a catcher in my hand, so I don't want to discard that. I don't want to discard the Bianca either. So I decided to just hold on to that stuff. And yeah. Simple first turn. I had a lot of options, but at the end, it was just a simple first turn. So there's an Ultra Ball from Dennis. He's going to discard a Blastoise. And then, let's see what else he discards. Looks like Skyla as well. It looks like he's playing a lot of supporters in his deck, which is a good thing. This is a deck that people oftentimes try to fit too much into. Now, this is a Stage 2 deck. You need a lot of stuff. You need your rare candies, you need your Blastoises, and also you need a lot of energy. So a lot of people just kind of overlook this. and they kind of cram everything into one deck. They're like, yeah, I can play my Eviolites, I can play my Super Scoop Ups, I can play my Tool Scrappers, you know, throw in some plus powers. But no, I mean, you have to set up, first and foremost. That's what you need to do with this deck. It is going to be clunkier than these all basic decks like the one I'm using. So, looks like Dennis has done a good job building his deck. Lots of, just lots of simple things, lots of energy. He does have a couple of Eviolites, but it's just the core Blastoise line, the Keldeo EX, and the Mewtwo, and then a normal Keldeo. Lots of rare candy, and tons of supporters and energy. That's really all you need. And then the energy retrievals as well. Now, he had a rare candy and a Blastoise in his hand, and he decided to end. Probably because I could have just catchered out the Squirtle and knocked it out, and then he doesn't get his Blastoise out. So that was a good move by him. He realizes the need to get 2 Squirtles into play this turn. So I'm going to draw my 6 cards. So he gets an Ultra Ball. So he can do that and get another Squirtle into play. That's what he's going to need to do. So there we go, Ultra Ball. He's going to discard a Bianca and a Water. Hopefully grabbing another Squirtle. I can't see him grabbing anything else. And yep, there it is. There's a little guy. So now this makes it tougher for me to take out his Blastoise option. If he just leaves himself with 1 Squirtle, then my main goal is just going to be catcher immediately and then attach an energy and X-Ball. That's what you're going to need to do. But now that he's got 2 out there, it kind of weakens that strategy a bit. But, yeah, that's just kind of where we are right now. He's considering using Rush In with his Keldeo EX. I don't think I like that move. It's going to let me get an early hit in on it, which is really what I want. So I don't know how much I like that move. But oh well. I go for an Ultra Ball. I discard a Ho-Oh. And another Energy. Can't quite see what type that is. Hopefully it's not the same one that's in the discard pile already, but it might be. But yeah, I'm going to Ultra Ball. And it looks like Sigilyph is prized, so that's kind of annoying. And if that's the case, I'm just going to grab another Mewtwo and just say, alright, let's just do it. Let's just Mewtwo War, here we go. I got 3 Mewtwo's, I don't know how many you have, but that's how many I have. I play a bunch of energy switches, I play plus power, so I think if we get to a Mewtwo War, I'm going to win. And also I have time to set up another Mewtwo, which I don't know if you do or not. So I'm going to Tool Scrapper away that Eviolite. Put down Tornadus EX as well. That's kind of a safe Pokemon to put down. There's no way that gets knocked out in 1 hit. And if it does, it's like, well, whatever. If you're going to knock out Tornadus EX in 1 hit, you would probably choose Mewtwo instead. Right? I mean, Mewtwo is much more threatening. So now, let's see, I got a double colorless. I'm just going to put that onto another Mewtwo just to say, alright, if you get your Mewtwo next turn, I have another one waiting. And it's probably not going to be a war you want to start. But you might have to. So I'm just getting ready. Like I said in the first game, Mewtwo is actually the way to go against this kind of a deck. It's just very strong. And it looks like, we got a turn 2 Blastoise again. Another Keldeo, but it doesn't look like he has the energy to attack. So that's going to be really nice for me. And instead he's just going to rush in. And here, this is actually just perfect for me. This is what I wanted. I mean, this is... How do I put this? I'm getting to spread damage onto all of his Keldeos, which means it's going to be much easier for me to get knockouts with Mewtwo's. And then I'll probably just win by attacking with Mewtwo, honestly. Because he doesn't play any way to heal his Pokemon. He just doesn't. So I am feeling great about my position. The second he puts on 3 energy to a Keldeo, it'll just get X-Balled and knocked out. That's just what's going to happen. Pretty simple, straightforward. And, I just feel like I'm going to end up winning this. If that's what it comes down to. But, anything can happen. He could start, attacking with Blastoise and stuff like that. So I don't want to get overconfident and just kind of assume I won. But I'm going to Juniper away that Ho-Oh. Maybe I've made a mistake going for 3 Mewtwo's. Maybe it would have been better to just go for the Boufflant with Goldbreaker. That's a much nicer thing to have at your disposal because it's not an EX. So Dennis is going to catch her out this Mewtwo with just 1 energy on it. Kind of a strange move. And then he's going to draw 4. So I guess it's just to draw an extra card with Bianca. But yeah, this could go poorly depending on what happens. The normal Keldeo on his bench actually could play a big role here, because what can happen is he can hit me for 110 with Secret Sword, and then I'll knock him out with Mewtwo. And then he can follow up with the normal Keldeo using Hydro Pump, which is not an EX. It can do the 90 to finish off my Mewtwo. Then, from there, it's tough. He can just use Mewtwo at some point to take his last 2 prizes eventually. And I'm going to always have a Mewtwo on board that's going to be kind of in danger. So that's kind of scary. I don't really know how to deal with this. But this turn I will be able to knock out his Keldeo EX, that's for sure. It's got 3 energy on it, so I need 4 on a Mewtwo to knock him out, which means I just have to play another double colorless. Or I also have the plus power in hand as well. But I don't have a basic energy. I want to switch this Mewtwo to the bench because I want to force him to have a catcher to knock this one out with his normal Keldeo. And it's just the best way to go about it. And yeah, so really it just comes down to what he draws. It's probably going to come down to N, as most Mewtwo wars do. And this is no different, honestly. I could end him here, but I do have like a plus power and an energy switch in my hand, so I don't know if I want to. But I'm going to do it anyway, just because I want to get a look at some new cards, and I'm going to be taking 2 prizes here, so I want to use the end while I can at my advantage. And maybe he was holding on to some stuff. He must, I mean, he had a lot of cards that he wasn't actually playing, which could have been like energy retrievals, cards like that, maybe just supporters. So I just decided to end him. I didn't think his hand could get much better. Maybe I can make it a little worse. And we do have a whole lot of, well, a lot of trainers in my hand, that's for sure. And I can computer search this turn, just to get a Ho-Oh in the discard pile, and then maybe just grab myself a supporter. You know, in case I get end, I just want to get the Ho-Oh in my discard pile. I'm not sure what I'm going to grab. Could be a Juniper. Yep, I'm going to grab a Juniper. And this is just preparing for an N, basically. I want to be able to get useless cards in the discard pile. Catcher obviously is not going to be useless, but I haven't actually played one yet, so I have plenty of those left. And Ho-Oh I do want to get in the discard pile, because it's not a card I want to draw anymore. And also, it's not, it's not useful unless it's in the discard pile. So it looks like Dennis did just draw a catcher, so he'll be able to knock out my bench Mewtwo, and this is where I do get in some trouble. Just with him, yeah, being able to catcher out the Mewtwo, knocking it out. And this is where I can be on the bad end of a Mewtwo war. We have a Skyla for energy retrieval, which is a nice little combo of cards there just to get yourself 2 energy. So he just needs 3 energy. Once Blastoise is out, you can just attach as many water as you want per turn because of Deluge, the ability. And yeah, so Hydro Pump is 60 plus 10 for each water on the Keldeo. That'll be enough to finish me off, get a knockout here. And like I said, it's just going to come down to his Mewtwo's, honestly, as the game progresses. It might come down to an N from me, stuff like that, but for the most part, it's just going to come down to what he draws. So he's going to energy retrieval, puts 3 energy onto his normal Keldeo, and it looks like all he can do, so he's going to take his 2 prizes on my Mewtwo, which are 2 water energy, which is pretty nice. And now it will be my turn. At this point, I have some weird decisions to make. One thing I could do is just kind of go for it. And by that I mean I could catcher out his bench Keldeo EX and then drop a plus power. And then if I get an energy and then rebirth and an energy switch, I can take 2 prizes on that bench Keldeo EX. Now, I think this is the route I actually decided to go, but looking back, this was not the right route to go at all. This was the worst thing I could have done, I think. I just kind of figured, alright, if I take the Keldeo EX out of play, then that just kind of takes away his whole strategy. And also, if I don't knock out the active, he won't have energy in his discard pile to use energy retrievals. So that's something else that went through my head. And even if I miss my big play with Mewtwo, I'm at least going to put a bunch of damage on his Keldeo EX. And we'll go from there. So who knows? I am just kind of going for it here with Mewtwo, forcing him to have a response. It's going to put him on like a 1-turn window to have some sort of response. We're going to play the plus power and then Juniper going for it. I need an energy switch and then Ho-Oh to rebirth and then get me that from the discard. So yeah, looking back, this is probably not the best move. It's nice to be able to take these 2 prizes, but I put myself in an unfavorable position, I think, where I'm just kind of rolling the dice. We're just kind of gambling here. I guess at this point, I just kind of felt like that's what the matchup had turned into for me. It wasn't as strong as I thought it would be. So maybe it just got in my head that, this is probably not going to go well for me if I just play it normally. I have to take some sort of risk here to win, when in reality I probably just should have X-balled that Keldeo and knocked it out. That was probably just the right thing to do. But here, I go for it. We go for the big X-ball. And really, he just needs to have a catcher this turn, otherwise he loses. That's pretty much the thing I put him on. Catcher or you lose, and then next turn you need a Mewtwo, or else you lose as well. So he's going to dump a bunch of energy on his Blastoise. And then Juniper, discarding 2 Junipers and a Bianca. So he was loaded with supporters. We'll see if he draws that big catcher here. And, oh, the 7th card, uh-oh. So at this point, I am in a lot of trouble. This is where I realize, uh-oh. This is no good. This is where I can lose to a Mewtwo. I've just given myself, or I put myself in a bad position. I've given him the opportunity to get a knockout at this point. To knock out 2 EXs and win the game. That's what I've given him. And we'll see what happens. So I'm going to promote my big old Mewtwo. I think at this point I've kind of been scared off of, well, now I can just lose to his own Mewtwo because I have so much energy on this one. I could end up just losing. So I've been kind of scared off by having all that energy on my Mewtwo. But that's just the way it is. I promote Sigilyph because he is a non-EX. So I'm going to energy switch up to him. And just drop a double colorless onto Sigilyph. And from here, I'm just going to end. We're going to put him at 2 cards. So basically, I'm feeling pretty confident still. He just discarded 3 Junipers with that last turn and a Bianca. So he probably doesn't have many supporters left. He's going to go down to a 2-card hand. I'm going to knock him out with Sigilyph using Psychic here. And then if he doesn't have a Mewtwo to follow up, I just win the game by knocking out his Blastoise with my Mewtwo. So even though it's kind of scary, the potential is there for him to win. This was just my strategy at this point. Be aggressive early on, and then late in the game end him. And take advantage of the fact that he's going to need a lot of cards to beat you. And this is just kind of where we are. So he promotes Squirtle. And now he's got some decisions to make. It looks like there's a Skyla in his hand. He could grab a supporter with that, I suppose. There is that option. But the problem for him is going to be surviving the turn. How does he do that? Maybe Skyla for a catcher, hope I don't have an energy or something like that. Or, yeah, that's probably his best option at this point. Skyla, catcher for my Tornadus EX, and then Hydro Pump it with Blastoise, and then just kind of hope that I don't have an energy or a switch in my couple cards there, because if I don't, then I just lose. But he grabs an energy retrieval, and at this point I'm like, I don't think that loses me the game. I'm just trying to think in my head, is there any possible combination of cards that he has in his hand? I guess Mewtwo, actually no, Mewtwo and Mewtwo catcher wouldn't have done it, because he needs 3 energy, he needs 1 to retreat. So yeah, at this point I'm pretty secure about my position. He actually sends up Wartortle and uses Withdraw. So if he gets heads, I won't be able to hurt him, and he gets heads. Wow. That's kind of funny. Haven't seen that happen too often. So here I'm like, alright, I'm just going to play this as safely as possible. I'm going to switch to my Mewtwo. Energy switch. Move the fighting to Terrakion, then Juniper for 7. If I draw a catcher, it's just game over. I can knock out his Blastoise, and I win. And no catcher. So the door is open for Dennis here. This is still kind of a scary spot. It's not like, oh my god, I'm going to lose kind of scary. But it's like a, I've given him an opportunity kind of scary. You never know what can happen with Blastoise. That's kind of my point. He could just kind of top deck a Juniper and then win. And that would be no good. So I'm just going to put Eviolite onto Sigilyph. I could attach an energy here, but I don't think I need to. And I'm just going to pass. There is a catcher left in my deck, so next turn I should be able to just Juniper for it. I think there's actually multiple catchers left at this point. I can just Juniper and draw 7 and I'll win. So as long as he doesn't win this turn, I have this one wrapped up, I'm pretty sure. There's not much he can do about it. And we'll move on to a third game for sure. As I just kind of sit here and wait. So I take a look, there's 2 catchers in there. There's 2 left in my deck then. He's going to take a look as well. Just trying to make the best decision possible. Actually, there might be 3 catchers in there. I didn't see too clearly, but at the very least, there's 1 left. I know that for a fact. So I guess he was just taking a look at Ho-Oh. And now, let's see. Guess he's just going to go for another withdraw. Withdraw. And, alright, there's a tail, so that's pretty much it. And, yep, I got the energy. I can just retreat and X-Ball for the game. So, alright, we're all tied up, 1 apiece. A weird game there. Pretty much all the games are going to be weird with the Ho-Oh deck. Is just a weird deck in general. And we will move on to the third game to see who advances to the top 4 here at the Castleton, Indiana City Championship. We'll be right back for that. Just hang tight as I skip over to that. Alright, so, third and final game here in the top 8 in the Castleton, Indiana City Championship. So at this point, I am thinking, alright, I tied the series up. I know what my opponent's got to work with. I know what I got to do. And I'm just going to give myself the best chance I can to win. Sometimes this ends up with me losing, sometimes it ends up with me winning. But I'm going to just make the best decisions I can. I realize this matchup kind of just comes down to how well he draws, and how many energy he can get onto his Pokemon, how quickly Blastoise comes out. He has gotten Blastoise out turn 2 every game, which is, I don't want to say it's uncommon, but, I mean, it probably shouldn't happen every game. Let's be real. Whenever I use the deck, it doesn't really come out that quickly very often, but it's certainly more likely with Skyla. The thing you worry about is just the Blastoise and having the energy to attack, which he wasn't able to do in the last game. And the first game he wasn't able to do it either because of The Sigilyph blocked the Keldeo EX from hitting him. But here he just plays an N and passes. So I don't know what to make of this. This could mean all sorts of things. Could mean he has a rare candy and a Blastoise. I decided to, keep with my strategy, put the pressure on. Unfortunately, my hand is abysmal, and I really need to end here. It's just a bunch of energy, a tool scrapper, and that was it, and an end. So I don't know what he had in his hand, but it's whatever. I don't mind playing end there. It's not a big deal giving him a new hand, because his hand really could have been anything. It could have just been rare candy Blastoise, and then like a Juniper, and then that's not what I want to see. So I'm okay with this. I'm really hoping for another basic because there's an off chance that I could lose this turn, and I get Sigilyph, which is the safest basic of all. It's really tough to get that knocked out early on in the game, and I'm feeling great. I get to X-ball this Squirtle immediately. Don't have any problems, and then there's rare candy Blastoise. So it's not the end of the world, but it's still kind of annoying to see that 3 games in a row. Just like, I can't just have an easy game, can I? And nope, he has a Juniper as well. He draws his 7, and this could be rough for me. He does have 2 water in the discard pile, so those energy retrievals will be good. He puts down a Mewtwo and a Keldeo, and here there's just kind of like a rolling your eyes moment, like, oh boy. Energy retrieval, puts the 2 on Keldeo after he rushes in, retreats, energy retrieval, puts the 2 energy on the Mewtwo, and the 3rd energy, and just like that, we went from lone Squirtle to bye-bye Mewtwo. So, yeah. Here is where you just kind of go, what? What was that? You had, okay, my Mewtwo's dead. Oh. Huh. Well, glad I got another basic then, huh? And at this point, you just kind of feel like, what in the world just happened? Probably feel like, how did you have all that? But, it's part of the game. It is perfectly possible. It can happen. And we'll see. I have to decide here. I could just kind of play the N and say, alright, I'm going to N, try to get Mewtwo, double colorless, switch. Not too likely. So instead, I'm going to just catcher out Keldeo and N him to 4. And maybe give myself a chance to kind of set up. I actually don't want to give him the chance to retreat that Mewtwo, because I want those 3 energy to stay there. I want them there so that at some point I can just put down my Mewtwo and go, Mewtwo, double colorless, catcher, knock out your Mewtwo. And then take my 2 free prizes from that, tie the game up. So that's why I catcher out Keldeo EX. So I do draw a Lightning. Here I have a really, really weird spot. I could get benched out if I don't bench that Mewtwo. That is a possibility. I see there are 2 energy retrievals there, but only 3 water in play. So if he has, like, alright, the 2 water to retreat, and then maybe like the normal Keldeo, and then 3 more waters, I actually lose the game. And that's not a good feeling. So, reluctantly, I put down my other Mewtwo, just in case I'm benched out. Attach a Lightning to Sigilyph and pass, and then he just top decks a catcher and plays it immediately, which obviously worries me, because, well, he's going right for it. He has a computer search, so I know he has at least a supporter, but he actually has a Juniper in his hand as well. But he decides to computer search for the Keldeo, the normal one. It's an interesting choice. I probably just would have gone for a water in his shoes to just get a water on the Keldeo and then give myself a better chance of retreating and then knocking out my Mewtwo this turn. It's kind of interesting that he's just kind of putting my Mewtwo in the active spot, though. This can backfire a lot if he doesn't get the energy to, knock me out. And he draws 6. He should draw another card, I think. Okay, draws 7. Yeah, this can backfire if, like what had just happened here, he didn't draw 3 water. He only drew 2. So he's actually going to decide to retreat. And, he decides to retreat to his Mewtwo and X-Ball for 120. kind of a curious choice. This obviously just kind of walks into my own X-Ball. At the same time, it does allow him to just knock me out with his normal Keldeo, just using Hydro Pump. So it does do that. I have 4 supporters in my hand, 2 Biancas, an N, and a Juniper. I decided to go for the N, once again just to disrupt him, because he did just play a Computer Search and a Juniper. So yeah, here, I'm down 2 prizes. There's 120 on my Mewtwo. I energy switched the energy up to Mewtwo just so I could guarantee myself an X-Ball if I drew any energy. Don't want to just bank on the fact that I'm going to draw a DCE after I've already used one. And alright, I do draw one. So that's fine. And also the lightning actually isn't very useful on Sigilyph at all. It's just kind of there. I still need 2 attachments to attack with it. But I do draw a DCE from a Mewtwo. And now I'll just be able to X-Ball him for, it'll be 240, I think. Yeah, 240. More than enough for the knockout. So I have this Ultra Ball as well. And I'm just trying to figure out, what do I want to do? I'm assuming that my Mewtwo's getting knocked out. I need to account for that. And so I'm just going to grab a Pokemon that I can energy switch to, a safe one. So I'm going to grab my Bouffalant. It's a nice little attacker. Boofer is a nice ability. Gold Breaker is very good against Keldeo EX. So I just wanted a place to energy switch my energy to in case my Mewtwo gets knocked out. That is my reasoning for this. I know it's kind of a waste to use 2 energy switches in one turn to just kind of, well, do nothing. But that's just the way it is. And now I gotta see if Dennis draws anything. Did he finally draw maybe a dead hand? If he doesn't have any supporters or energy, he's gonna be in some trouble. But I mean, he's got a lot of cards in his deck. He's in that weird situation where he had an explosive start, took some prizes early on, but now his deck is full of worthless cards he doesn't want to draw anymore. It's full of the cards like the Ultra Balls, the Squirtle, Rare Candy, Blastoises, the Eeveelites, all these little things, even the Ns he doesn't really want anymore. Skyla is okay, but there's just a deck full of cards that he probably doesn't want in his hand anymore. And that's just the spot he's in. So he's gonna actually use, I think it's called Slicing Blade or something like that. It does 30 damage for 2. Makes it more difficult for me to do anything, and also puts my Mewtwo in danger of being knocked out by a normal Keldeo. So once again, he's just kind of one energy short, over and over and over, doing the right thing. The second turn, he had enough energy to just kind of X-Ball me, X-Ball and knock out my Mewtwo, but ever since then, he's just kind of struggled. He had to burn 2 energy retrievals early on. He hasn't gone through too many energy themselves, but he's gone through a couple supporters and stuff like that. And now I'm just going to Juniper and try to figure out what I'm going to do here. I get, I get a Tool Scrapper and then an Energy Switch. Alright, so I have another weird decision here. God, it just seems like I'm wasting these Energy Switches, but each time I'm doing it for a reason. I mean, the reason made sense, but then it just ended up not happening, so it just kind of looks silly, but basically now I can Tool Scrapper, Energy Switch the energy back to Mewtwo, attach, and then that Keldeo only has 110 hit points, so I can knock him out with X-Ball. And I know, number 1, he hasn't played a supporter. Number 2, he doesn't have energy. So really he needs to top deck something miraculous to even have a shot at doing something here. So he's going to promote Blastoise, and he draws, a Bianca. So I guess that's the miracle you would need to get out of this situation. And here, I'm pretty much all in on this Mewtwo. That's all there is to it. If it gets knocked out, I kind of lose. And he's got a Bianca, so I'm like, oh no, did he really top deck out of this? But he drew 4 pretty worthless cards. Looks like Ultra Ball, Water, Wartortle, Squirtle. So it's just not working out for him right now. He does have the catcher to stall my Terrakion. I kind of put that down in case I got End. That wasn't a card I wanted to draw again. Sure, it opens me up for catcher, but At the same time, Boufflant could have been catchered too. I realize I could have drawn a DCE to retreat the Boufflant at that point, but I have enough switches left where it's not a big deal that Terrakion gets catchered. Plus, every turn that Terrakion is active, that means Mewtwo is not in danger of being knocked out. But we do have a rush in from Keldeo, and it just passes. And at this point, time is actually getting pretty low as well. So that is something to worry about. Just going to take a look at my discard pile and see that, okay, I actually have no energy in there. I have no types of energy in there to use Rebirth, even if I wanted to. So that's going to be a problem. Definitely going to Juniper this turn to get those Ho-Ohs in the discard pile. I've been discarding a lot of supporters, but, I can't really help it. It was just kind of the hands I had. And I don't draw a switch. That's really what I was just going for here. I just wanted a switch to get a knockout. Now, I could attach to Terrakion and just kind of maybe threaten a Retaliate for 30, which is not that great. Instead, I'm just going to attach to Boufflant and then threaten a Goldbreaker next turn. So I'm going to pass. And now it's Dennis's turn. He does not draw a supporter. He has 2 water. It's not enough to attack. What is he going to do? He's got an Ultra Ball, a Wartortle, a Rare Candy, and 2 waters. That's not a great situation. He decides to Ultra Ball. I guess he's going to get the Blastoise out. But in the process, he's going to have to discard a water. Unless he decides not to go for Blastoise. But it looks like he does. He's discarding a water and a Wartortle. So I don't know what he's going for here. Probably, I don't know if it's better to hang on to something. He is thinning out a card in his deck, but he had to discard a water, which is a precious resource right now. He's just 1 short of attacking. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that decision. I guess he's kind of worried that Blastoise could get knocked out and catchered and then knocked out. That's the order it would be. And if that happened, then he just loses his energy acceleration and pretty much loses, period. He's going to take another look at his deck. It looks like there are a few supporters left, maybe a couple Biancas and Juniper. So he's going to have to top deck one of those, but actually water is kind of running thin in his deck. And also energy retrievals are as well. Now, I still am kind of in a precarious spot. I haven't won yet. I haven't. That's the truth. I could kind of lose on time. I could also lose a full game, depending on what I draw. If I miss a switch here or there. Alright, so time has been called at this point. I am turn 1. That's what's happening here. This is a weird spot. So I'm turn 1 of time, I think. And I have a 1 prize lead. So at this point, I'm kind of thinking, alright, I'm kind of safe. As long as I just get an attack off this turn, I should be able to just get a knockout on his Keldeo EX. Even if he somehow knocks out my Mewtwo. It should happen. I need to go for my switch this turn. So I can Juniper and go for a switch. I'm going to have to discard even more supporters, which is annoying. I'm going to use my last energy switch onto Sigilif, just in case I need to follow up with that. And, man, this is tough. I'm going to have to Juniper. I need to draw a switch. And, alright, I draw one. So that's fine. And, things could be worse. Things could be better. But it still just comes down to whether or not he top decks something now. I'm going to switch to the Boufflant. And I don't really see a way out for him unless he top decks a Juniper. That's really the only way out. That's Juniper or Bianca, or he loses. That's it. Because I'm going to Ultra Ball away a Terrakion and a Tornadus. The only Pokemon left in my deck is actually a Mewtwo. So I'm going to grab that. I have exhausted so many resources just because I know this game is going to end very shortly. And I know that this is not a long-term game anymore. This is the next couple turns, and it's game. No questions asked. I'm actually going to put down my other Mewtwo. this kind of takes away his option of getting a knockout on my Mewtwo with a non-EX, because I can just kind of X-ball him if I have the cards, and it all comes down to this. Dennis is turn 2. If he doesn't get a knockout, he loses, and he extends the hand, and that's going to be the game. So, somehow, some way, after a turn 2 X-ball for 200, I was able to come back and beat Dennis here in a very, very close game. Well played by him. And, this is just kind of what Ho-Oh is. You can't explain it. You don't know what it is. You don't know how it wins, but somehow it just kind of does with its weird attackers. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll have the top 4 up for you soon. Again, great games, Dennis. It was very well played. It was a very close match. Had my heart racing for sure. And I'll be back with some more matches soon, so thanks for watching, guys. I am Pooka, and I will see you next time.